We started the race. We're sailing towards the upwind mark. We're close haul. We're as close to the wind as we can get. This is going to hold true for both monohulls and multi-hulls. We encounter a shift. Wind shifts this way. That's called a lift because we've been lifted closer to the mark. And this is a good thing. This is where you want to be. The wind shifts, you come up with it. You've got a shorter distance to get back to the mark. Conversely, the wind could shift the other way. This is known as a header because you've been headed. You can think of it as having to head down or being pushed down. Because again, you can only sail so close to the wind. But now we're sailing further from the mark, unless we tack. Because on the other side of a header is a lift, and now we're sailing closer to the mark again. Downwind is going to be similar, although slightly different, because monohulls typically can sail dead downwind or pretty close to it. Multi-hulls can rarely do that. They're going to have to stay off at some angle. You can do this with a monohull too, and depending on your boat and your sails and the way you plan your race, it could be advantageous to you. That'll depend on your particular boat. But we'll say we're on a multi-hull and we're sailing to the downwind mark, and again we have to stay off at some angle. And the wind shifts. Well, it shifts this way. That's a good thing. Sort of the same as a lift as if we were going upwind, because now we're sailing closer to the mark. But it could shift the other way. This sort of amounts to the same thing as a header, as if we were sailing upwind, because now we're sailing further from the mark, because again we have to stay a certain distance from the wind. But just as in sailing upwind, if we know the header is going to be sustained, if this boat were to jibe, now he's sailing closer to the mark. Now wind shifts, headers and lifts, can be intermittent. They may not be sustained for any long period of time. In these cases, you have to decide whether it's worth your time to tack or jibe on a header. If the wind's simply going to do this for a few seconds, and then come this way for a few seconds, and then back, you may be better off falling off with it and coming back up when the wind comes back up. On the other hand, depending on how long it takes you to turn your boat and get back up to full speed, when you're headed, it can be to your benefit to tack or jibe. But again, it depends on how long it takes you to turn your boat. If these shifts are taking place 15-second intervals, and it takes you 20 seconds to go from one tack to the other and get back to full speed, you haven't bought yourself anything.